Right.
What's going on, everybody? We got about 5 minutes here till launch. This is our little pre-show we do with the fake backstage noise. Make it sound all professional. Bronson, what's up, man? You ready for this?
Yes.
Yes. I swear to God, I did not hold Bronson at gunpoint. I swear. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is just a little, please stand by. We fire up the live stream about 5 minutes before we go actual live with the show. And we do that just to make sure, number one, the stream's working. We give time for people to come in and join up. And also on the screen, you'll see the way that you can join the show live. So what's going to happen the first 10 minutes or so, we're going to kind of discuss the topic at hand, introduce what's going on. Then a little bit after that, we'll start bringing people in live from our green room in our Discord. So you can go to Pantheon.plus. There's a link at the top that says join Discord. That's the easiest way to do it. Click that. That'll bring you into our Discord. And from there, all you need to do is jump into the voice green room. Once you're in there, you're telling me you'd like to be on the show and you'd like to give your opinion. So what you'll be able to do is give your opinion on the topic at hand and BS and tell stories and go back and forth. And we'll try to get to everybody that we can. Bronson, we're typically going to try to go for an hour. So 9 to 10 is the goal. I will tell you that we do a half hour of overtime if there's people in the green room who haven't gotten in yet. So far, we've filled that extra half hour every week. So about an hour to an hour and a half.
Very cool.
This is the bad part. I think I run out of alcohol almost every show at this point. So I have 2 minutes. I'm going to get up because I'm not on camera right now. I'm going to go grab another beer.
All right, man. Go grab that bottle.
Mm-hmm. I should just grab the whiskey that's over there, but we'll stick with Michelob Ultra because I'm healthy and I hate it.
Is it gluten-free?
Got a couple more minutes before we go live with the full show.
All right, man.
Still get to hang out in the back here, pretend we're important, pretend like this is... I mean, we do have the noises, like there's people back here like actually setting things up.
I know, it's cool. I've heard it before. That's a pretty neat set. I like, my favorite part's always the
Nathan.
The fucking Nathan dropping his drawers. It's pretty hilarious.
I can't wait till he's all moved. I can't wait till he's moved.
Oh, is he moving somewhere?
Yeah, he's moving from down south up to Green Bay. So he's going from heat to the cold. So that's why he's kind of been a little distant. I can't wait till he gets back because he's one of my guys. He'll be on here a few times, I'm sure.
Cool. Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, it was funny when that came to be. I said, I think I'd probably have to do a viewer warning because this is live. I mean, knock on wood, so far we've been good, but we could pull someone in from the green room and it could just be a cluster. So I was like, we got to do something. He's like, oh my God, please let me. I'm like, go for it.
I'm trying not to cuss because I know that, that does have an effect, doesn't it, on YouTube as far as.
The simple fact of the matter is we're about less than 30 people away from hitting 1,000 where we could monetize, but we're not going to make my first check if I monetize on YouTube is probably like 35 cents. And I'm just going to put it up on the wall here and be like, yeah, I don't, this isn't some money making scheme, if I'm being honest with you. So have fun with it. No, I don't think they're too crazy about it. I mean, if it starts getting nuts, maybe, but we're good.
Yeah. You never know once the game starts,
Yeah, maybe.
Or something. Maybe. You never know. I mean, never be surprised.
Yeah. Right. Oh, there's Chris. So we got Animus was in here early. We have Assam's in here. We have Jared Smith, Cerulean, and Chris Kane with the comment of this channel sucks. Well, it's 9 o'clock. Let's get the show started. I'm going to go ahead and throw up that warning we were talking about, and we will kick this show off. So here we go.
Oh, we're live? We're streaming right now? Cool. Awesome, man. Let me just...
What's going on, everybody? Minus here from Pantheon Plus, and we are on episode 8 That's pretty cool. 2 month. It's a 2 month anniversary. Episode 8 of Pantheon PlusYou. And this show, if you haven't seen it before, is all about giving the community of Pantheon a chance to get on the air, talk about the topic at hand, give their opinions. And we pretend that maybe somebody from VR is actually watching this. They have liked our videos a few times and retweeted them, so maybe they sneak in here, but let's just pretend. Let's pretend we actually have impact on the game. And you guys can actually come in here and give your opinions and ideas. And then when they steal them, they can pretend it was original and we won't get any credit. But hey, it's kind of how it works. So everybody, welcome to, again, episode 8 of Pantheon PlusYou. There are instructions at the very top. You can join our Discord to call in to the show and get live on the air and discuss your opinions and kind of give the viewer ideal of where we're at for the topic. So tonight's topic... Chris says, so the chat is already going crazy. He says that I will reveal my bald head at 1,000 subs. He's saying that because I bought a new shaver. Bronson, I don't know if you ever had this problem. Probably not. It looks like you have a great head of hair. It is a shaver that is dual bladed, and you just kind of rub it up and down your head, and it's like a 1 minute shave for your whole head. It's amazing.
Wow, it's like a Flowbee.
Right. I don't know what that is, but right. So I got it, and today was the first day I used it, and it's super easy and quick, but I sliced the shit out of my head. So I got this big cut, so Chris wants me to unveil it. I don't think you're going to see it, though. The lighting and the way that I have this set up, I don't think it'll stand out. So, but yeah, let's try to get to 1,000 subs. So let's get back. Sorry. Chris Kane gets me off track. This guy's a maniac. Tonight's topic. So let's talk about that in a second. But first and foremost, I want to introduce tonight. We have Bronson as a co-host with us tonight. I'm going to give my little Bronson story here and make him all blush and then we'll hand it over to him.
Sounds just like me.
Yeah, right. We'll hand it over to Bronson to kind of explain who he is and how long he's been following Pantheon. But so. When I first got into Pantheon, and Bronson still argues this point, but this is how I remember it. It could be wrong. I remember jumping into the Pantheon Discord and talking to people, and back then it was a little more positive. There was a lot of ball busting still, but it wasn't quite as frustrated as it is now. And I remember, the two people I saw in there every day was Janice and Bronson. And Bronson was always there to knock Janice down just a slight notch, just give him a little hell every once in a while, bust some balls in love. And I remember at first me and Bronson went at it a little bit, but as we got to know each other, we've talked quite a bit. We've had some fun nights. And what it all comes down to is Pantheon, this show, so far up to this point for the first 7 episodes, we've brought in content creators that are aligned with the Pantheon Plus community. We've brought in some streamers that we're going to feature in the future and all of that. But the biggest thing is that eventually I wanted the co-hosts to be community members who are either in different parts of the community or in our community or on the show, because honestly, that's what this show is all about. This isn't, while I do want to sit here and I do want to promote some of the great content creators that we have across the community, and I do want you guys to check them out when I think that there's someone that's really valuable and they provide great information. At the end of the day, this is a community show about getting the community's voice out. And more than anything, I want to bring community members on. So that's what's really important to me. So if you're in chat right now and someday you want to co-host and just sitting here, jump into the green room and contribute when you can, or chat with me. I'm going to try to get as many people co-hosting as possible. So Bronson, you're our first, me and you have talked for a long time, so I consider you a friend, but you're our first quote unquote community co-host. So hopefully I hyped you up enough there. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, because you have a pretty cool story too.
Hey, I appreciate you bringing me on and being the first.
No pressure.
No pressure. My story is pretty simple. I'm a gamer. Like everybody here, I think. So I do, but I have a bit of a story. As some people have heard me ramble on in the chat about being a developer and all that blah 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 stuff. But yeah, it's fun because I get to be a developer has always been a dream of mine. So I got into games in 1992 as a developer artist. Not really a programmer designer, but so
you get to make the pretty stuff though.
Yeah, it's fun. I've got to see the industry as a whole kind of transition, much like probably because I'm I'm roughly the same age, I think, as like Brad or somebody. So I've been around to see like the games go from these really kind of adventure games to, super involved, detailed graphics have gone to pixels of, where you have 256 color palette to now we've got millions of colors. So it's nice to see how that's gone.
What do you like more? Do you like the 3D or the animation style?
I like it both. It's fun. I've had to make that transition somewhere in 90. Oh gosh, when everything started going to Windows, we were going from DOS to Windows, and so yeah, it was nice to be able to do that. But yeah, 3D is. But I always love going back to 2D because that's my original passion.
Now, can I share one of the games? And you know what I'm talking about because it's one of my favorites of all time. And when I found out you worked on it, do you mind if I share that, or do you want to keep that off?
No, go for it.
Okay. So one of the really cool things, like I'd already known Bronson for quite a bit, but as a kid, I was huge into the Sierra games. And when I say huge, they probably still hold some of my greatest memories outside of MMOs. And I used to play them with my grandfather. My grandfather's like a hardcore military guy. So like, when I dyed my hair when I was a kid, what the hell's wrong with you? When I pierced my ears, what's wrong with you? When I got my eyebrow pierced, I almost got kicked out, right? So he was always so straight-laced. But the one thing me and him shared was the love for computers and building computers, and games were a part of it. And we played all the Sierra games. And I distinctly remember playing the one you worked on, which was Space Quest 6. I have such vivid memories of that, from the Terminator scene to the Street Fighters to wiring the cockpit, which seemed nearly impossible with anything that was given to you. Like if I didn't have the guide as a kid, I could have never figured out that puzzle. But you worked on Space Quest 6, which is probably one of my favorite franchises of all time. And I'm not saying that because you're here. You know that. You knew that before you told me you worked on it. So I'll give you a shout out for that because that's really awesome.
Cool. No, that's awesome for me, for as being a developer, and then all these years later to hear somebody actually play, because you never know how many people play your stuff that you work on, and that's really neat. That's really neat for.
And again, that's not me like kissing your ass. Like, you're my friend, I'll bust your balls. But that game definitely, like, that whole series is awesome, and to have you work on it, like there's a bit of me that's like just sometimes wants to nerd out drinking with you and be like, so tell me about this.
Dude, I got all sorts of stories on that one. That was a fun one. I'll tell you sometime.
All right, we'll do that off the air. So Bronson, again, thank you for being our first community member to jump in here, co-host. Guys, he's co-host, and he'll be chatting as much as me. He'll be asking you guys questions. You'll be chatting with him. I'm excited for it. I've had a lot of talks with Bronson. I know we can talk. So me and him don't have a problem there. So let's talk about tonight's topic. So the way this typically works is we're going to introduce the topic here. I'm going to give you my story and opinion on it. And I'm going to set that blue meter that you see over there. It's I always mess up because it's reversed. The blue meter you see over there, that'll be my meter. I'm going to set it to where I believe I am on the topic. And then you guys will have the ability with your stories, with your opinions, to change my meter, but you'll also be affecting the viewer meter. And to start the viewer meter, Bronson's actually going to start it with his story and his opinion on the topic tonight. So with that said, let's get to the actual topic on hand. And it's a mouthful of a topic, but it needs to be to sort of understand what we're talking about. We're not just talking about gear tonight. We're talking about specific use of gear. And we're talking about, do you like to have multiple sets of gear? Do you like to carry around bags full of gear? Do you have your bank full of gear? And how hardcore are you when it comes to maximizing your character output with gear? And is that something that you want Pantheon to have, or is it something you want to avoid? So let's go ahead, and I'm going to start with my story here, because this is my most hardcore moment in gearing and keeping gear. And I will tell you straightforward that I am a hoarder. I will fill my bank with pieces of gear until the day comes where I have to dispose of things to fit more gear in. And that process will typically take me 2 to 3 hours of bank clearing to be comfortable with getting rid of certain things. So this really stems from me playing WoW. That's the one I did this a lot in. And I won't lie, I did it a little bit in EQ2, especially with clickable items. Not EQ2, EQ also, EQ1. But in WoW, it was pretty hardcore. And I'll give you a little vision of how hardcore it was. So I was really big into mods. I've said that before. Interface mods, designing, power, weak auras and power auras was a huge fan of. In Legion, in the last tier, the last raid, I actually got so hardcore into all my characters and building gear sets that I carried around full bags of gear, and I had different specs for every fight and a different gear set for every single fight, including a different gear set and spec for trash. And I know that sounds crazy, but I just loved it. I actually had icons on my screen down the right-hand side that would coincide with the set that I'd create in my character window. So I knew, like, number 1 fight, it's this button. Number 2 fight, it's this button. It would show me what set I had on. So saying that I'm hardcore in wanting boatloads of gear is an understatement. I absolutely love using gear, and I think that, obviously my meter is going to be very high. I love experimenting with different stat types or experimenting with different, like a skill that someone says is useless, and then finding a gear set that makes that skill worthwhile. I'm really, really big into that, and I'm really hardcore about, some people will call it min-maxing, and there is a part of it that definitely is min-maxing, but it's like a self-drive to do something where people say you can't do it. That I really thrive on that, and I really enjoy that in MMOs. So needless to say, I am someone who I hope we get a ton of gear. I hope that we're able to create different loadouts. And I'm going to move my meter up to almost the absolute top. Actually, I am going to top it out. So the main reason I brought this topic up is because it's been and you know this, Bronson, because you spend a lot of time in the Pantheon Discord too. It's a huge topic, especially around the climate stuff that, I'm going to have to carry all these items, I'm going to have to carry all this gear, and I'm going to have to change this, and I'm going to have to change that. And there's a lot of people that are worried about having all this stuff in their bags. Whereas for me, I'm always going to have this stuff in my bags. Like, what do I need bag space for if it's not items? If it's not stuff I'm going to use? I don't want 500 goblin ears in my bags. And stuff like that. So for me, I want to fill it up with gear. I want to have gear in there. I want to swap things out to maximize my ability to help the group or to do something crazy. As a rogue, I'm going to be able to sneak. I want to be like, let me throw on this gear that's going to help me do this so I can sneak past these mobs and throw you a rope and distract this mob. And this gear is going to help me. Because one of the things about Pantheon, if you haven't seen it or if you're new to Pantheon, is that they've really talked about the fact that the individual stats are going to be very important, and they're each going to have their effects on how spells will work. So now you're not just talking about having the right gear, but like increasing your wisdom versus increasing your constitution, or increasing your agility versus your strength is going to have a play on your different abilities. So you could legitimately create a 12 skill loadout where one of the stat lines is more important than the others, and you're building a set of gear for that. So that's my opinion. I've already set my meter. I'm really, really into just swapping gear and being creative and testing things out. So with that said, I've spoken quite a bit on it. Bronson, let me toss it over to you, and let's get your opinion on it and your history with this kind of thing.
Wow, that was pretty in depth, buddy. I am not that. I am definitely more of a minimalist.
Okay.
But I do that's not to say that I don't enjoy gear. Obviously, everybody wants to have the best of the best, their gear for their characters. And this game seems very set on what they've already said. What they want to have multiple gear sets so that to handle different things that happen. You can run into these different areas. You need to throw on, X set and all these different sets that you might have to have. And I'm definitely, I think that's pretty cool. I really enjoyed WoW's gear swapping. You could make have a set, just go up, name it, swap out your stuff, and that was the way I handled it. But yeah, as far as what I don't know how I feel about it as far as loving it or not loving it. I think it's a must. I think it's definitely, if you're going to have that kind of design in your game, you have to make all the things that are going to allow your player base to do what they need to do. So like a player like you want to have all that stuff. So it sounds like you're going to need, whether it's glyphs, if they're having the glyphs, it's going to be like, if they're going to be etched in a piece of stone, they have to have a ring, like a key ring, the way WoW
Yeah, you brought that
there.
up earlier. That's a pretty cool idea.
Or a pouch or a scroll that has them all etched on written on the scroll, that you have to have this side thing. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be great, but I would have to say that it's got to be high on the meter. So you have to have, I just don't know, what are my choices here? I've got enjoy the gear swapping and disliking.
Really,
so,
it's somewhere in between. In the middle, I should have probably labeled here is something like, I'd really like to have just my preferred set of gear that I wear 90% of the time is somewhere in the middle there, right? Or even towards the bottom a little bit. Whereas it's like, well, I'll swap out a couple pieces from time to time, but or even, do you want the right click items? Like, I think all of us that played EQ had one bag slot that was always J boots. Once you got them, that was your slot for that. So, the other thing that's interesting here versus WoW is that this game is going to feature bag weight. So like EQ.
right.
So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, oh man, playing a warrior with 15 sets of gear and having all this plate in 5 bags of plate, like I'm probably not gonna be able to do that in this game. So that's pretty interesting to think about.
Yeah, that's something definitely. Encumbrance is going to be one of those things where you have to consider. So I'm definitely going to say 3/4 of the
Okay.
up, at least the third bar, because I don't want to be swapping all the time. Like I don't want the world to be so complex that I'm switching out I have to have 3 gear sets or 4 gear sets at all times, and it's gobbling up all my space just so that I can be aware and be able to acclimate myself to this swamp. And then suddenly I'm in I want the world to be big enough to where I don't I might have to go to a bank.
If we're going to the swamp that night, it's big enough that we're going to probably be in the swamp. We're not going to stumble from the swamp into the the extreme colds into a volcano.
Exactly. Exactly, right.
And that kind of brings up the important thing too that you just said there is the strategic planning ahead of time and knowing where you're heading for the night. Especially if you plan out the night, maybe that limits the gear swapping or what you need to grab from the bank or what you need to carry on you. So there's definitely a pre-strategy that's important. Like I said, in the last raid, I think there were, I'm going to mess this up, but I think in the last raid in Legion, there were 9 bosses or 12 maybe. And I literally had 12 different talent builds, 12 different gear sets with different trinkets. It was stupid. But it was so fun. It was so fun because, again, I'm not a competitive person for the outside world. Like, I'm not going to run around. You guys see me in Pantheon. I'm not going to point at you and be like, I'm better than you. But I will definitely have my guild relationships with people who I have, that competitive push with. Like, oh, you got me by 2%. I'm going to get you next time, blah, 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 blah. And I definitely thrive off of that. And I always I don't want to be someone pulling the group down. So that's like my self-push, I guess you'd say. So, all right. So 75% roughly. So you don't mind swapping, but you definitely don't want to have to do it all the time. That makes a lot of sense to me. You can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. So from this point forward, we're going to start pulling some people in. I do have a couple other thoughts we'll carry, but before we pull in, and we're going to start by pulling in Hoye. So Hoye, if you can hear us, we'll be pulling you in very shortly here. You'll be first to come in, I guess you would say. But before we do, let me jump into the chat because we were definitely deep in chat there. Welcome some people in and go through some of the conversation they've been having, and you can jump in and give your piece too. So, Jared Smith, we gave a shout out to. Cerulean, we gave a shout out to. Chris is being mean. So Thorn Deep, you jumped in. Well, welcome. Ex Mako joined in. Doom Turkey, what's up, man? We have Mario, welcome. He said he loved the quest for glory and Leisure Suit Larry. I loved Leisure Suit Larry.
Shout out to Mario.
Listen, so my house had like a loft, and like that's where the main room was, and the computer room was downstairs, right? So I would sit in the computer room and I could yell up to the loft, and my grandmother didn't know what I was playing. My grandfather did. He didn't seem to care, but he wasn't home all the time because he was working. So I'd be sitting at the computer, and at the very beginning of Leisure Suit Larry, anyone who's played it, they ask you a bunch of questions to determine your age level. It's like a little Jeopardy game, and if you can get them all right, you got full nudity and in glorious pixel form.
So it's like you get nudity if you're tall enough to reach this bar, like getting on a roller coaster, you can see nudity, right? Okay.
So I'd be, however young I was, which was pretty young, and I'd be sitting there yelling up to my grandmother like, "Yo, Graham, who was the 5th president?" And she'd be answering all these questions, and I'd get them all right and be like, "Full nudity unlocked. Here we go, baby."
Yeah, I only worked on part of one of those, and I worked on one of the Quest for Glories. But yeah, I remember those questions at the beginning of that game just to test your age.
So good. And if you didn't get any of them right, it was like everything was blacked out, and it was funny. Jared Smith said he's a hoarder. He said it's horrible. His level 110 bard still has his level 50 gear. Listen, I get it. I think I had an iron foe on my warrior in WoW until BFA, which dropped, I think, in BRD. It was a rare drop, if I'm not mistaken. I still had one of those. It was like every time you swing, you could get an extra attack. Like
I started, the only time I ever hoarded would be on my rogue in WoW, and it was only because for Transmog, so that I had all my sets in my bank, so that I could I don't get bored with my style, so I'd go into the bank and go to the Transmog.
See, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to see if anyone brings that up from the green room. If they don't, I will, because that's another piece we haven't even discussed, and I'm a nut for that. So X Mako said he spends at least 30 minutes every day or more looking at his bank items. Dude, I get it. I'm so on that. I'm so there. Cerulean says I'm way too extreme for him. Doom Turkey said in Final Fantasy XIV it's worse because you can glamour all your gear, so you end up holding everything. Yeah, that's an interesting point, because you had to actually keep the gear and then put it into a glamour case and you could use it as glamour. Whereas in WoW, once you found it, you had it. As long as you soulbound it to yourself, you couldn't like grab it and sell it, because then everyone could just trade it around. Let's see. X Mako, first level problems. Your alt has pots for 800 HP, but you only have 350. Yep. So you get the pots that don't even do anything to you anymore. You have like an old pot. You're like, well, maybe I'll need it for an alt. I'm so bad. I'm such a hoarder. It's real bad. Chris Kane just shouted out Fungi Tunic because we were talking about J-Boots. Oh man, the best item in the game in my time. I didn't play forever, but in my time, Fungi Tunic was the best. Budrick from Brimstone Gaming says I'm pretty biased when using my own gear, but if it's implemented, I'm open to it. Vincent says raid gear, min max all you need. Yeah, I got made fun of so much, and I'm curious if anyone's gonna make fun of me for switching to trash gear. Dude, I
was always bummed out that gear and looking back and EverQuest is everything. You can never find. I mean, that like an outfit that looked good. It always looked like a hodgepodge, and that's what I'm really hoping they don't have too much of that. I hope they have kind of this good palette sense of everything kind of works. That you don't look like some, I don't know.
Battle Axe jumped in. Welcome, Battle Axe. They said J-Boots for the win, of course. And they said Holgresh Elder Beads, if I recall correctly. That sounds familiar. I couldn't tell you what it is.
Sounds real familiar.
Someone the other day brought up the Cold something Shaw. And I'm like, oh, I remember that too. What was that? It was like a shoulder piece. Cold. Someone will get it in chat, I'm sure. We had, let's see... Spinozad said gear sets are cool if there's an actual decision point for swapping, i.e. a trade-off. Let's see. Brimstone says you could wear full plate in frigid cold. Would you wear full plate? If I'm a plate wearer, I'm wearing plate. Just gotta warm my ass up. Doom Turkey says I don't mind swapping for a specific raid or dungeon, but not multiple times midway through. See, I love it. It's horrible. Okay, so that being said, we've already told Hoye we're bringing him in. So Hoye, we're bringing you up now. So here we go. Hoye, welcome to the show, man. Hey, first and foremost, thanks. I think this is your second time on, so welcome back. Yep. So what's your thoughts on this? We've talked a lot about what we think. So what are your thoughts on the whole gear hoarding swapping?
Just real quick, I can hear, or you guys can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't hear you guys.
If you are in Discord, you should be able to hear us. If not, you may have to mute the YouTube channel. If you can't hear us, we'll swap you out.
Well, I'm saying I can hear you guys on the stream. I can't hear you on Discord.
Okay, we're gonna have to swap you down. You might just have to change your input settings or restart Discord. It could just be a Discord thing. So I'm gonna throw you back down to green room, and then we'll bring you back in when it's fixed. Okay, so we're gonna go with Coco Mojo. It's gonna happen, guys. Don't worry. It's okay. There's gonna be problems with pulling people in all the time. So, Coco Mojo, we're gonna bring you into the live channel now. What's up, Coco? Coco. You tell whatever. Are you in there having a big debate with Chris Kane?
I was just talking to everybody. Bullshit.
I hear the green room is great, but I unfortunately, until I get like a co-host, like one day I'll have Hayat on, and I'll just jump into the green room and let him run.
You're not allowed in there, man.
That's fair. That's fair. So, Coco, what are your thoughts on this?
Thoughts on? Wait a minute. I gotta.
Yeah, it's just the whole. You know, do you want tons of gear? Do you want to be swapping gear every fight? Do you want to swap before the night? How often do you want to change up gear?
Yeah. The gear thing. Yeah, I think that I don't mind swapping. Like if I'm about to go into a fire zone, like I gotta put on my fire protection gear. If I'm about to go into a snowy zone, I gotta put on my jacket and stuff. You know, I don't mind that. It's just I don't want to do it all the damn time.
Okay.
And I would like some sort of system to be able to help organize my stuff, like built into the game, so I don't have to like get like 20 different like add-ons just to be able to organize my damn gear in my bag and figure out like gotta have this one on this one on that.
It's funny you bring that up. So like the in-game like gear sets is at this point in my opinion is vital. You have to have that, right? So when we talked a little bit about like encumbrance and the fact that if you're going to carry a bunch of gear, it's going to weigh you down, which is going to hurt the amount of weight you can carry. You know, maybe it's not a big deal for a cloth wearer, but for a plate wearer, that's going to be a big deal. What do you think of having where you can equip 2 sets of gear and they don't live in your bags, but they live on like a swappable character page? So that like when you equip gear 2, it's not on and it's not weighing you down, but you can swap between the 2 of them. Would that be something you would want, or is that?
That sounds like a cool idea, but it depends on how they like add it into like a lore kind of perspective. Because I don't want to be like sucked out of the. I find that kind of immersion breaking, always having to open up menus without the menus having some sort of like kind of lore. Like maybe if they had something like that, but you had to like unlock it by like crafting like this book that allows you to like store your gear on this book page, and you rip out a page and allows you to swap it or something like that.
Something like the old bags that would reduce the weight in them type of thing.
Yeah, something. I don't know, something like that. It just something a bit more than just hey, this takes up bag space or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me, and I want to be like hardcore and all like I played more genius game, but I just want to have it fit the world.
Yeah, I would always curious how they could handle like making your character look like they've got a backpack on or something like that, because then it's just like that's immersion breaking in itself, because then you have this backpack, the more gear you have all these bags off of your waist or something.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Didn't they just make like a really popular game like that? Like it was this like computer/Xbox like 2-player thing.
We saw all your stuff. I don't know.
I can't remember the name of it.
It would be interesting because you'd see my character from WoW it was a warlock with just like helmets all over them and 15 different trinkets like lining down their belt. I'd look ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what I always liked about the idea of renting a pack mule.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dungeon Siege.
Yeah, Spinezozad just said that. Yeah.
Love that idea.
Yeah, and
I want to be able to buy a pack mule though.
Or Outward.
I always want the same one.
And it could die, of course.
Coco, was the game you're thinking Outward?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was Cerulean just threw. He said your backpack could be dropped so you wouldn't be encumbered in combat. It's interesting.
Oh, okay.
Man, can you imagine if you forgot to pick your backpack back up?
Yeah, no kidding. All that's gear just left there.
So, Coco,
yeah, but,
from a viewer's standpoint, like, so you don't mind swapping. You'd kind of like to do it preemptively than actively having to change all the time.
Oh, doing it during a fight would be like horrible.
What about before a boss fight?
I wouldn't mind doing it. It depends on how much before a boss fight.
Okay.
Like I plan on playing a Dire Lord. Okay, so if I have to like change from like 2-handed swords to like a big, huge like 1-handed thing, because I need a bit more crushing damage or something, I wouldn't mind that. But if I have to change like the entirety of my set every big fight, then it's just like, oh man, that's just way too tedious.
Just frustrating. Okay. No, that's fair.
Maybe like right in the middle of the world, this wouldn't be immersion breaking at all, but like a little dressing room would pop up, and you go inside.
A little portal, and you walk into it.
Portal of
You
dressing.
Like all these maiden stuff that
Only the
Amber
summoner can get you there.
Get you
The
ready.
portal of dressing.
I don't know.
No. The summoner just like summons like this like big blob, and it just eats it and then spits it out with all its new shit on.
Spido's ad said a dressing TARDIS. Like Doctor Who.
Yeah, there you go.
Like Superman and Doctor Who. You just jump in.
You
And
just jump
come
in
back
and
out.
you come back out, and you got a new outfit on.
I was a Dire Lord tank, but now I'm Deeps. Do you have so Coco, what did your bags look like when you played like think of the last MMO you played? Were your bags always full of stuff? Did you keep yourself clean? What did your bank look like?
Oh well, I'm playing like WoW Classic right now. And
Okay.
my bags are pristine.
So do you have specific slots for certain types of items?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Absolutely. It cannot happen otherwise. Like the OCD does not allow this to happen. Like I will go like you know how you have bags and like each bag has like a different like size. Like
Yeah.
if I skip sizes of bag just so I can have my perfect slotted bag space.
Awesome. So is your bank like right now, let's say you went out and you were crafting or gathering and you gathered a ton of materials, are you perfectly fine to be able to throw that in your bank right now? It's not going to take out, you have the space to put stuff in. Is it all clean? You only have what you need in there, or is it pretty overloaded?
Well, I'll sit there and overload my bank and like bank alts and stuff like that. But then like
Bank alts.
after every play session, I go through and I organize all my stuff.
Okay.
And before every play session, I go make sure that my organization was properly done.
I feel like when I needed to organize my bank, it would literally be my entire day. Like if we were going to raid at 9
that's why
o'clock
you
at
do
night,
it every time before you end and every time before you start.
I don't have that discipline.
Like, don't you want to make gold?
No. So if you meet anybody, I am always the broke ass person who will take your ass through a dungeon and give you the greatest experience ever, but I'm broke as hell.
That's why you play the
Always.
female character. You always make money while pretending to be a girl. If that still works.
I always play female characters, but I've done very little dancing on mailboxes, so I guess I have to get better at that. So Coco, so Bronson set the viewer meter at about a 75%. Like, so he's saying, he doesn't mind swapping gear. He doesn't want to do it all the time. You want to bring it down? Okay, we're gonna bring it down.
50. Like I'm good sometimes. I'm not good other times. I don't want it to do it too much, but I'm cool with doing it.
Okay. And Bronson,
It
where
depends
are you?
on how the UI works for it.
Exactly, if it's helpful or not. Because if it's not helpful, it's even worse having to do it all for sure.
Right, and if it's just me putting it in the bag and having to drag it over, that's stupid. It sucks. No. Like I want like maybe set 1, set 2, set 3 or some bullshit, but like maybe try a bit better than set 1, 2, 3.
Awesome. All right, Coco, thank you, man. I'm gonna drop you down.
Yep.
So what do you think? You moved the meter down. I feel like you're slightly sliding down from where you were too, or am I wrong?
I would say I could see it going in the middle, at like where it is right now. So, it's just that it kind of depends on how they handle it. There's so many things so many unanswered questions right now in my mind. That,
This is making you just think of things you didn't think of before.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of wanting to have at least an extra set at all times, and plenty of your glyphs that you need. But that's going to be a crafter thing, that from what I've read. So
It'd be interesting.
people are going to be able to craft. Yeah,
I think
it's going to
that's
be a really
still-
trippy.
Yeah. And just it seems like it's going to take a while to get some of those higher end ones, which I like that'll
Yeah.
distinguish you from being able to be the guy who stands in lava.
Exactly. Exactly right.
So we're going to try to pull you in again. I know you can hear us on the stream. I don't know if Discord's working for you or not. So we're going to try to pull you in one more time here. So I'll give you a second while we do that. And while we wait before we pull him in, just a couple things more from chat. So Cerulean says, hoarding is an entirely different thing. I hoard like crazy, but I don't like swapping too free. So he likes to have it all, but not necessarily have to use it, which I get. I totally get. Ex Mako says he likes to keep unique weapons and shields and stuff like that. So I get that. Cerulean corrected me. It's Coldange Shaw. And Battle Axe also said the same and said it was a hard-ass quest line. I do remember that. I don't remember the quest line, but I remember the item. A lot more people talking about swapping for a fungi tunic. Some people do not like the being able to have 2 sets of gear swapped without encumbrance. They said it defeats encumbrance, so no. I get that. I'm cool with that. Do you feel the same way, Bronson? If you're going to have encumbrance, make it matter.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that as far as like tanks, I think they're naturally going to be stronger, aren't they? They're going to have that as a stat that goes. So that means they can carry probably more than a clothy. But
that's an interesting conversation. Yeah, does strength will probably affect how much we can hold, right?
But then again, the clothies only need cloth stuff, right? So
it kind of evens out.
It sort of, I would imagine it evens out, yeah.
Whenever you're a clothy and you're going on an expedition to gather, you're just throwing a bunch of strength gear.
There you go, or a strength buff, right? That's how I used to get out of some dungeons. Somebody's like, put a strength buff on me, I can't get out of here, and then I just just barely walk out.
Yeah. So some people said here swapping items. Fungi tunic was brought up. We have like to have actual mules. Like, so you think you brought that up, right? To like have a mule where you put your gear on and you call them in when you need to change gear, and that mule has your gear. That's not a bad idea. If you're gonna have mounts, why not make them more functional than just run speed? I think having mounts that just do run speed is a little boring.
Well, you could also have a horse post, like a post out in front of each dungeon, and that's where you could tie your your mules or whatever and go out to them, load them up, go back into the dungeon, do some more farming. Just an interesting idea, but I mean possibly. But the other idea is, I'm curious, is if you can have, like, you get like with all these glyphs and these, you start getting that higher and higher level. You start to have multiple sets of the same exact outfit. Say you found this outfit that really works, and then you just load it up with all the different glyph sets, and then you just swap out that, or you can.
Or if you have a rough run and some of your gear gets broken and you're not able to repair it, you can swap a piece out. I've been there where we've been in a raid really going out of boss and didn't have a way to repair because we're idiots and didn't bring a repair ammo or whatever. But and swap it into one of my other pieces of gear just so I didn't have to go back to town or something like that. So
right.
Eric says, hey all, under the weather. Welcome, man. Thanks for participating in chat and being here with us even though you're sick, man. Appreciate that a lot. For me, Sakaro says, for me, armor swap, nope, but jewelry, yes, and that'll cut down on the weight. So have gear that's specific to you're wearing that until you're. I see the hard thing with gear swap is you can't really say you can't swap gear until you're in town. You can lock it in combat, but I guess if you're saying like most of your stats are on the jewelry, that would maybe make a little more sense. It's not because they've already said the stats are not. You're not going to get a piece of gear that has like 30 of a stat on it. Like stat increase 1 point is going to be meaningful from what they're saying in Pantheon, which I like a lot. So.
Yeah, it seems like that's similar to EverQuest, isn't it? I mean, they never had like large, crazy stats on their gear.
Yeah.
I mean, 10. I remember there was being 10s, but I don't recall seeing what you see in a lot of games nowadays.
Legion got out of control. Legion was ridiculous, and then they pulled it back in BFA, and a lot of people were mad. They didn't understand it was the same thing. They just reduced numbers. But people liked those big numbers, and they didn't. It was crazy. But yeah, some crazy stuff went on there. So, okay, Hoye, we're going to bring you in. I hope you can hear us. What's up, Hoye? Can you hear us now?
We're good to go now.
Awesome. So, hey, sorry about that, man. But so welcome. And so what are your thoughts on gear? I mean, we've talked a little bit about our viewpoints. What have you done in the past? What do your bags typically look like?
So I was a main tank for a little while, and then also a DPS. Those are the two characters I always roll. And yeah, I'm a min-maxer hardcore. So on my DPS, I had about my last 2 bags, I had just full of all kinds of random gear.
Trinkets,
I didn't
right?
know. Yeah, because when I go in a raid, it's not always the same people. So sometimes I have an enchanter buff, sometimes I have a Templar buff, and I know which stats I need to max and, the priority ranking, So if I don't have the Templar buff, that means I need to put this gear on to make up for the enchanter buff I'm missing or whatever. So I could always max out every single stat I wanted to, as long as the gear allowed for it in game. And then the same thing when I was main tanking. You know, a lot of time, not every single boss, but you know, sometimes I had to change up gear for each boss individually. But you know, it just kind of depended on the raid zone.
You're right. It depends on the fight. So, I mean, that's what we have to wonder with Pantheon. What's the dynamics of the fight going to be, right? If you're a warrior and you're fighting a strictly melee physical damage enemy, well, warrior looks like, from what we can tell, that they're going to be able to handle that really well. So maybe you can push a little extra damage out to help the group, right? I mean, imagine that's the kind of stuff you would do, right?
So I think in Pantheon, this is a little bit sidetracked, but I think in Pantheon, instead of having a lot of gear dependent for each different boss, I think you're just going to swap out tanks. So, you know, you got a big melee boss, that's going to be the warrior all day, but then you come to a magic boss, that's going to be, you know, the, what is it? Dire Lord?
Dire Lord for magic, probably.
Right, and so forth. So I think that's probably what it's going to be, but even still, you could probably mix it up some here and there. My thing is not everybody's a min-maxer, and I don't want to have everybody to have to keep 2 or 3 bags and then, you know, go through it. I love the numbers. I love crunching numbers. I love running parses. I'll spend an hour after raid just reading my parses and seeing which stats, which abilities do the most, you know, bang for the buck. So I love that. I love the stats and numbers. That's honestly my favorite part out of everything, is looking at numbers afterwards. But not everybody's like that, so I don't think everybody should have to. But I think if you want to min-max, I mean, if you want to be the best, you min-max and you put in the work, and I just happen to like it, so it works out for me.
Yeah, and I think that kind of will separate itself. And Bronson, feel free to jump in if you want, but
I'm boring.
No, you're good. I'm just saying, like, the whole concept of, I know how difficult it is to say, like, there's different types of players, right? So I'm a min-maxer. We have super hardcore elitists. We have very casual players that don't want to do that. And I get all that. And I think when you try to design a game that takes care of everybody, you take away from somebody. There's no way to do it. So just my whole theory is make the game, and a min-maxer is going to find tiny little things. And if they're just tiny, we're still going to do it, but it won't make a huge difference, right? Like we'll be 10% better than someone who doesn't do it. And as a min-maxer, that's fine for you. You know, like, it's like, I'll take the 10%.
Yeah, min-maxers, like, I mean, I could never do it. It's just never been. I mean, I jump around so much in the type of gameplay that I do. I'm usually an explorer, so I'm always roaming around the world. But when it comes to my gear, I always want to have the best, so that I know that I'm going to be doing whatever class I'm playing. If it's going to be healing, if it's going to be DPS or tanking, I want to have the best of what I need for the class, so that I don't let everybody else down.
Same. I'm exactly the same as you, even though we're slightly different in the min-maxing. That's what drives me, is I don't want to let my group die. I don't want to be the reason we die.
And that's really important for the main tank as well.
Yes. And typically, if you don't know this about me, I typically have played a main tank in every single game I've played, with the exception of the end of Legion. And in Pantheon, I'm going to go rogue, so this is really different for me. But as soon as you said, Hoye, that like I play a tank, and here's what, totally on the same page as you. You know, maybe for one fight, this talent or this ability is way better, but it's more beneficial to have this item on for it, you know, and I'm going to do that every time. So,
right.
So what do you think right now? You know, we had it at about 75%, and now we're at about 50%. Do you want more ability to gear swap? Do you like it right in the middle? Do you want less gear swap? Where would you move that meter if you move it up or down?
For me, I would put it all the way at the top, right where you are.
Okay.
But to think about everybody else, I think probably about 75, 80%.
All right, so we'll jump it back to 75. We've had someone at 75. We've had another at 75. We've had someone at 50. Looks like we're going to hover there, so we'll bring more people in. Oh, yeah, thank you so much for coming in, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good night.
Good luck tanking. What are you playing, by the way? What are you going to play as a tank? Are you going tank in Pantheon?
I'm going warrior. I main tanked in EP2 as a monk, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with warrior.
Dude, warriors look so badass. I am really into the warrior, and hopefully someday, maybe me and you can be warriors together on my alt. We could throw down the shield wall, and that's the coolest shit ever. So
yeah, that'd be great.
I'm still on the fence. I'll probably end up playing a paladin, so I'm right there with you.
Pallies look good too. Pallies look good too. All right, yeah, I'm gonna drop you down. Thanks, man. Yeah, Bronson, paladins look sick, man. I think there's gonna be a lot of paladins.
Yeah.
For a class that's limited to 2 races, I have a feeling it's gonna be tons
A
of
lot
them.
of I'm afraid of that. I've been trying it out on P99 because I've never played one before. I always played a warrior, or I played a necro, or I played a druid on P99. So I'm trying all these alt classes right now just to see what they're like and if there are going to be any similarities in Pantheon.
I will tell you guys right now, this is my theory, take it for what you will. If you want to sort of understand the classes of Pantheon, EQ will help. Go play the Vanguard emulator. You're not going to get all the skills. See the base skills, level up to like 30. I'm telling you right now that you're going to see a ton of similarities. A ton of skills that remind you of Pantheon skills. It's pretty cool. It's my time in that emulator has taught me a lot about Pantheon, if I'm going to be honest with you. So, and those people who played it are probably like, yeah, duh. So next we are going to bring in Trakedon. I see that you are muted and your headset is muted as well. You're in our green room, so I imagine you want to jump in. So Trakedon, we're going to bring you in very shortly here. I saw him on mute, so let's go ahead and bring him in. What is up, Track? Can you hear us? Uh-oh.
Track.
His mic's not working.
Hey, what's going on?
There he is. What's up, Track? How are you?
Good.
You might have to mute your YouTube feed if you haven't yet, and hopefully you can hear us just through Discord here, so it's live time. So first and foremost, welcome my Rainborn friend. So please let us know, what do you think of the gear? Where you're at? What do your bags look like? What do your bank look like?
I don't really like to carry a lot of stuff. I try to always keep my bank, with only the stuff that I need. And when I travel, the same way.
Are you a crafter? Do you carry a lot of do you use your bank mainly for crafters items?
Yeah, I only want my craft. If I'm doing crafting, I only want the stuff that I need to store in my bank, and I don't want to. If I start hoarding too much gear or trinkets, then I run out of space.
That's totally understandable. So are you someone who typically if you get an item, you're going to weigh it against what you have, and if you like it more, you're going to equip it and you'll get rid of that other piece of gear? Or is there a time frame you'll wait to get rid of it?
It depends. I mean, if most of the time.
Most of the time, you just get rid of it. Okay. So what are your thoughts on the meter? So right now we're at 75%. So far, we've had 2 people that really like gear swapping, or maybe one that really likes it, one who wants to do it but not all the time, and someone who kind of wants to limit it to just presetting. Where's your head at with it? Where would you put that meter? Would you keep it at 75%? Would you bring it down? It sounds like you might bring it down.
Yeah, I would bring it pretty well down. I don't mind doing, swapping gear, but I don't want it to have to carry it around to play. If maybe I have to go to the bank to swap it. I don't have to. I don't want to carry it around because it's gonna be too heavy or take too much.
You like having your bag space for finding treasure and stuff like that, pretty much.
Yeah, but I also don't want the game to move too fast. We're okay, let's drop. Oh, we're here. Okay, let's go to the other side of the world and raid this, and let's just stop here. I was no, go to the bank. Kind of more of a simulation, I guess.
So you like the strategy of prep for the night, which I actually do really like. I'm going to be honest with you, I like that strategy a lot. Here's what we're doing tonight, so here's the gear I'm going to put on, and let's go.
Yeah, people gotta be, part of playing good is also being prepared. And knowing what you're gonna do.
Right. So I brought it down because you were a little bit. So you're going to be more of the dislike carrying a lot of gear. We had the really high, someone like me. Then we had 2 people that was sort of in the middle. So I'm going to put it about 50% right now to balance that out. Track. So here's what I know. Since we're in the same guild and there's a chance we're going to get to play together some, I may have you hold some gear for me every once in a while. If that's okay.
You're gonna be his pack mule.
Just a couple here and there. I'll pay you for your time. Track, thanks for
Anytime.
jumping in, man. I really appreciate it. I'm going to drop you back down. Really do appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by.
All right, thank you.
So there you go. So someone who kind of just wants to prep and move in, and and that's why I asked him if he's a crafter, because I think crafters would probably be more attuned to saying, "I need my bag space," right?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out between you two though, because you've already said. I think you've already said you're the guy that goes in the dungeon with no money, and you're going to try and rent that guy's bag space. I don't think it's going to happen.
Maybe I'll promise him, like, when he pulls aggro or whatever's happening, like I'll make sure that I'm sleeping or stunning those targets so I can see. I'll have to maybe, like, I'll make sure that I'll get him the rope first. When I feel
because bag space is a valuable commodity, and Track is going to charge you probably.
Well, I'm a rogue, so I have to be able to wheel and deal a little bit. Maybe I'll get some dice and roll against them, some loaded dice. I've always wished that, this is a complete side talk, I've always wished that a game would let a rogue have loaded dice that you could use every once in a while. That'd be the coolest thing in the world. And I don't know, like, there's something where if someone has high constitution, they can tell and call them out. But I just think that, like, having something like that would be cool. Completely off topic, but I think that would be an awesome thing.
Yeah, I'm playing a rogue myself, so.
Oh, there you go. We can go steal from the world, Bronson, me and you. So let's go ahead and see what people are saying here over in chat. Ex Mako said he'll min-max his tank, but it's the cleric's job to pamper that bastard as soon as he logs in. Damn straight. If you're a good tank, it's the healer's fault. 100%.
No. I totally disagree with that one. But anyway, another conversation.
Mr. Cake Donut is throwing out his Gardner Minshew reference here for any football fans. He says he only wears a jock strap when he works out. That's the quarterback of the Jaguars there.
Yeah, I think Chris said it was jockstrap +3 dexterity.
You probably do have some dexterity with just a jockstrap on. Cerulean says Paladin's a favorite of his. Thorndeep says nobody wants to see me naked. So Thorndeep, we were talking about standing on the mailbox earlier and dancing for gold. If people give you gold, you put your clothes back on. See, there's still a strategy with that. You can still earn money one way or another. Doom Turkey says he likes the warrior, but he does not want to be forced to use a shield. That's an interesting discussion topic. I could go on forever about that. Let's see here. Cerulean using a Borderlands 3 reference for Mr. Cake Donut. Erikai kind of commented on that. He really doubts warriors will be forced to use a shield. They've said before it'll be a significant portion of their AC, but they'll have a lot of defense and offensive skills with them either way. He thinks he'll see a lot of dual wield warriors, which would be kind of cool. And if
I would love to see dual shields. I still want to see that.
I did that in the first time I beat the first Diablo game. My weapon broke, but we were using a cheat mod, and my shield damage, like punching, was insane. So I just finished the game with a shield as my main weapon. It was pretty cool. Let's see here. It says Spino Zad said, "Yeah, I get the impression they actually want to incentivize shield usage instead of just having it." So that's interesting. I agree with that. Andrew says, I like the idea of keeping it simpler. Maybe for meleeers, it's based on target's weakness, i.e. blunt. Yeah, I wouldn't, even though I'm a huge gear swapper, if it just was more weapon heavy swapping, I wouldn't be super opposed to that. If you're just carrying around a lot of weapons instead of so much gear.
Yeah. I like the idea of like one of those, like, what is it? Like a sort of like an archer's quiver. But it's like they have this, you can put your weapons in it. And it's like a longer version of it. I don't know what it's called, but
yeah.
I would like to see something like that, possibly, so you can see your weapons on you. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Weapons are the coolest. Usually the coolest items you wear. Helmets, shoulders, and weapons, but I don't think in this game shoulders are going to be very cool.
Yeah, I would, like I said, but I'm totally cool with dual shields, as long as the shields sort of kind of look like weapons. Like they're sharp to where you can
Mr. Cake Donut just said shields with blades on them.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or a sharpened, like some of the shields are very sharp, but it could be a smaller shield, but you could wear
or
them
like
both
a
on your
spike on the
forearms.
front of it, so when you hit them,
that could be an interesting weapon.
Yeah. Wielding shields. I'd totally do it. We are going to pull in Thorndeep. You are next to be pulled in. I see that you're muted and your headset's off, so if you want to drop those, we'll be pulling you in very shortly here. Drew L, welcome. He says, as a caster, he almost never swapped gear. And before, he said certain classes have definitely benefited more than the others in gear swapping, so that's 100% true. So Thorndeep, we are going to pull you in now. Again, you're still muted in headsets. We'll see how this goes. He's still muted. We're going to pull him in. Hey, Thorndeep, you are live, but I don't know if you can hear us, so we're going to give you 5, 3, 2, 1. Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is. What's up, Thorn? How are you?
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. Did I catch you like doing a bathroom run real quick? And of course, I pulled you in during that.
Bio break.
Yeah.
So, Thorn, welcome, man. Your thoughts on it? So, do you like swapping gear? Do you carry? What are your bags? What does your bank look like? So, kind of the open question there. So, have at it.
So, well, my bank looks like filled with crafting mats. That's generally my bank. So, yeah, it's sad but true. It was interesting. I wasn't sure about the gear thing until I listened to you guys talk. And it really solidified my opinion that I want no gear swapping if at all possible.
I don't want to be anything like Minus. That sounds horrible.
I mean, I definitely think, gear choices should be important, but I think it's one of those things, like, again, you decide before you head out. And I know there has been talk, about the weapons, what you use against versus mobs. So I think there's plenty of opportunity to be swapping a lot there. And since I don't think they're having any sort of item decay, you won't need to have like backup gear when things, for things breaking. You may obviously need it for corpse runs and things hopefully you'll need it for corpse runs and stuff like that. But we'll wait to see if even that's
if it's in your bank, though, it won't help you if it's on your body, I guess. So keeping it in the bags won't help.
Exactly. So, you'll probably be heading back to town to get your, the gear you need to try to get your body back. So yeah, no, I'm like way down now on it.
Yeah, they've said they don't want you to. You can't even swap during combat, so it has to be out of combat to swap your gear, anyways. So.
Which is, I think, a lot of games go that way. I think the harder push is they don't want you to even be able to swap abilities in combat, right? So your loadout for the fight you're in is what you're gonna have to finish it in, unless you die or somehow drop aggro. So.
Yeah, it's like you made the wrong move here. That means you died, so now you're gonna have to change up your floor.
Or you were really good, but a storm rolled in and you're screwed now. So.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, that's why you bring a druid along.
Yeah. Well, Thorn, you may have just given me one reason to invite a druid into my party.
No,
well,
not the.
If we ever game together, I'll give you a couple others. So.
So you'd move it down. So I moved it down a considerable amount here. I'm going to move it a little tiny bit up because we've had a lot more people that are. So you guys are at about, we're probably about 35 to 40%, where more people would just rather not have to swap gear all the time. So that's pretty awesome. You guys are way different than me on this. And I wasn't sure. I thought that might be the case. So Thorn, anything else? Like what's your bank is probably pristine than just crafting mats. When you get gear, you're selling that for more crafting mats.
Or hopefully, again, like in Pantheon, they mentioned possibly breaking things down. So breaking down whatever gear you don't need to get rare mats and things for something you can make for somebody else.
Yeah, I love that idea too. I mean,
Oh,
reverse
God.
engineering stuff is cool.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that that's a main thing in crafting.
So Thorn, you play a lot of EQ, and one of the things with EQ is a lot of clickies. A lot of clickies in your inventory. Do you like clickies or no?
I think rare clickies, like you get some that are pretty special and then you get to use them, but I'm not huge on like every item having a click or some sort of special. I mean, maybe way at the end game, but.
What do you mean by clicking? It's like a
J boots,
like
right click, the skeleton, turn you into a skeleton.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there were
buffs.
certain, exactly. Or a res, like one of the, the
cleric. Yep. The cleric epic, right? Could res.
Right, exactly. So it should be more like I see it like as more like a cool epic or super rare, like really rare.
My clickies were typically J boots and then cosmetic. like the Mask of Deception, the one that turned you into a skeleton. So that was a lot of my clickies were just to look cool and then run
Right.
fast.
But again, see, like stuff like that, I see is, you know, you have it in your for the image stuff, like you have it in your bank, and then when you want to pull it out for fun, then you can play with it. But you don't really need it necessarily on your dungeon trip.
Yep. All right, so we brought the meter down a bit. Thorn, thank you for jumping in tonight, man. As always, it's a
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me.
Thanks for being here, man. So I'm gonna drop you down.
Cool.
So man, that meter's dropping a lot.
Yeah, man, they're going completely opposite of you.
Everybody. And I had a feeling it would be that way because if we looked at the Pantheon official Discord, we saw a lot of people were just so upset with having to fill their bag space with anything. like
yeah.
I almost think like we have a whole group of people in the Pantheon Discord that just want to carry around empty bags and they'll be happy. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't begrudge people not wanting or having a lot of bag space for stuff that they want to find. And I'm really hoping for quality of life stuff that they will allow for enough space. You know, I don't know how much space is going to be in a bag.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know how many. They're going to do the same thing that have like, 6 slot bags, 8 slot bags, 10 slot all the way. And you start getting all these crazy epic crafted bags that are 22 slot,
and they have announced already that you will have bags that will lower weight too. That's actually in the FAQ, so those bags will exist like they did in EQ, which were awesome. I mean, I played a monk for a long period of time, and man, because you had the weight limit, it wasn't your physical ability to carry, but your stats actually dropped if you were over a certain weight as a monk, and those bags that would reduce weight were more important than any of the gear you were wearing at times, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I remember I was farming that bag. I forget what it's called. It's the one in Kith Forest. Kithcore, was it? Oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it. The Scary Forest. That's right.
The scary one.
Yeah, the scary one that scares the crap out of everybody when you come out of Riverdale. Or that one.
Oh, somebody just said coin split off, please. Please do not make currency way. Having to chase the J-Boots guy with all the copper was the worst thing ever. So.
I know. That was a terrible quest. Ugh.
So a couple things, we'll get to the chat here. Guys, we are in overtime. We're going to do this for another up to a half hour. So we still do have Chris Kane, Idiot EQ, Mr. Cake Donut, and Budrick on tap for getting in here live and giving their opinions. We will get to you guys. I'm going to read a little bit more chat. Eric said, so this is interesting because I wasn't a hardcore Final Fantasy player, but I've heard about this. So Final Fantasy 11, he said, gear was kind of okay because it was very macro driven. Like he said, it governed everything. So it wasn't tedious, but it was weird because people were literally switching gear with macros before every single spell. Like your spells were gear swap and then the spell cast, like macroed. And he said that was really silly. That is beyond me. Like, I don't want anything like that. I just want to have it before I go into a fight to be able to swap for boss fights in a raid and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, that's ridiculous. I would never want to do that.
Yeah, that sounds like overkill.
Yeah, really like when it becomes macroing. When you're maximizing per cast, that's a bit too hardcore even for me.
That's like a mini game. You're swapping out your gear as a mini game.
You have to be a coder to play the game. We have, right. Drew says the only caveat to swapping gear as a caster is resist gear. Mr. Cake Donut just randomly yelled teleports. I'm not sure why. That's what he does. He might be drinking, but he just yelled teleports. Adam Tuggle. Adam is a great buddy of mine from up in Jersey. Miss the hell out of him. He's a huge Arcade player. You want to hear stories of why you should play Arcade? Hear about what this guy did in that game. I never got to do all the stuff he did, but man, was it crazy. He said in Arcade, casters have 2 sets of gear, one for PvP and one for PvE. In PvP, casters need to switch from staff to a shield and scepter. So it just that's okay. I think a lot of people would agree with having to have 2 different sets for that. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me too.
Yeah. And then let's see here. So someone yelled fungi stick. Caro said, please turn off coin split. And then Aber hit /split 100. 10,000K copper. Thorndeep said it's Kithcore. That was the one you're thinking.
Yeah, Keith Corn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Kara said that the 15-minute walk from Butcherbach to Quenos to try to get there with all the copper to turn in the J Boots quest. Oh my gosh, was that miserable.
I started throwing away my copper. I just throw it. I would throw it at all the wild animals. I just like, here, this.
Well, you had to take like X amount of gold, and you had to convert it to copper to hand to the J Boots guy. He'd only take it in copper.
Oh yeah, for that stupid thing. Yes, that was a nightmare. But I mean, and just in general, I'm walking around. If I had like more than 400 copper, I'm like, this is garbage. I'm sorry.
Yep. It's funny because EDDQ says, Final Fantasy XI was the crazy end of the spectrum. And I think a lot of people look at WoW like what I said is crazy. And man, that's so much crazier. So we're going to bring in Idiot EQ next. So Idiot EQ, get ready. We're going to bring you in. I see you're already unmuted. So here we go.
Actually, right now?
We pulled you. Yes, we pulled you.
Okay.
I heard you were mid-talk. That's what happens sometimes from the green room.
One
minute you're arguing with Chris Kane, the next minute you're on the air.
It was just life or death. It wasn't anything crazy.
It's good. So what are your thoughts on gear swapping, carrying gear? What are your banks? What does your bags look like when you're playing an MMO?
Well, I actually had a quick question for you because earlier for like a minute I heard you say that you played WoW and you had a different gear set for each boss.
Yes.
And could you what expansion
Legion.
was that? Legion. Okay.
Legion Warlock.
I stopped playing literally 2 months into Cataclysm, so I don't have that knowledge going that far in. And from my WoW experience, I remember having maybe 2 different trinkets, maybe a different gear piece that had crit versus something else, and I would swap that in. But I don't remember it being that.
Yeah, I think it started in chat. Correct me if I'm wrong, because a lot of it's a blur to me when it comes to WoW, if I'm being completely honest. But I think in Cataclysm is when sim crafting became a really big thing. And it wasn't huge, but people started doing it, and then it expanded into what it is today, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, it was nuts, dude. I could literally put on a set of gear, change my spec, run a simulation on my computer, get hundreds of thousands of simulations which show me my estimated damage per second in a single target fight, in a multi-target fight, blah 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 blah, and I could swap one piece of gear, run it again, see what the difference is, switch a talent point. So it got so crazy because a lot of, and in WoW, the one thing that you have to give them credit for is WoW's boss fights were pretty innovative. I think that if you look across all boss fights, the strategy and innovation of WoW boss fights, I think are not given enough credit. I think a lot of people look at WoW and they say, oh, this game's so easy. I think a lot of those people that say it's easy have never rated it at a heroic or mythic level to see how one misstep screws everything up in that. But anyway, without getting off track, so when it came to my Warlock, it swapped quite a bit.
No, okay. So I can say that, again, with my WoW experience, so I played FF11, and that was on the spectrum of what they just said in chat before. It was absolutely ridiculous. You would have a different macro for every single spell.
So
and I remember,
how many pieces of gear did you have in your bags? I mean, was it just gear?
Yeah, you were full. It depended on the class, but if you were like a black mage, and again, this is back in the day. I know the game has changed since then, and it's probably changed more towards more gear, but if you were one of the mages, you were switching for every single spell, and you had a staff that would give you more damage for fire spells. And in that game, you did all of your spells. You didn't spec out and only use frost or something like that. You would weave all of your spells. You would use big spells from each school of magic. So you would have at least 3 or 4 pieces that you would change for each spell. It was kind of ridiculous.
For each spell. Wow.
For each spell, during your rotation. But again, it was a little bit easier because it was macros. If you had to do it physically, that game was kind of playing an MMO on top of an Excel sheet.
Okay, so here's what I'm doing. Because of Final Fantasy XI, assuming Final Fantasy XI is me having my meter at the top, I am slightly moving it down to the top line because
that's valid.
That's too hardcore. Yeah, you just changed my mind.
You are right now. I think everybody's thinking that's what you did.
No, I don't want that. Please. Okay.
No, I was down there, I was talking with Chris and everyone, and I think I stand on the in-between where it's I'm okay with having a couple different weapons, a couple trinkets, maybe a piece of gear. And I will even argue that you brought it to that next level, because the only reason you were able to find use in all those pieces of gear is because you were running numbers.
Yeah.
Like
and we may not have the ability to do that in this game. So we're not going to have APIs that are handed out by, they've openly said you're not going to have all the tools Blizzard gives to their community. We're not going to be able to mod. So it's going to be a lot. Now we'll have parsing. Parsing's always going to exist because it has to. It's the way the games are built. There's going to be a log we'll be able to look at, and we'll see raw numbers, and we'll be able to take those numbers and put them into something to generate a report. That'll happen. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be, turn this on and you can see. So it's interesting because of the way Pantheon's going to be developed, that it's not going to be as easy to figure that out. You may have to have a feel. It might be a feel thing sometimes.
And something else to remember is, unlike WoW, is how you easily the turnaround for gear was crazy. You can run into a dungeon 5 times in one night and get better gear each time sometimes because or maybe not. Well, that's not a true example.
No, that's 100% true. Yeah.
But it's this game in Pantheon. I don't think we're gonna be running into that problem where there's constant turnaround of gear. To where you're gonna be holding on to that gear for quite a while, which will kind of minimize this whole swapping out as much as we might imagine or the possibilities. But yeah, I think when you're higher levels, that might be a bit more of something that happens.
Well, and some of that older gear might actually still have a use later. So maybe it's not. You're right. Maybe you don't see that early on, but as you level up, you may still go back. This may not be true, but if they want to make items that important, you might go back to a level 40 sword at max level because that sword has some kind of value or epicness to it, which I would love.
That's what I miss.
That. Yeah.
I miss that. I miss there being a reason to go kill this level 35 boss because there was some random item that would help.
What level was a fungi tunic? I mean, what level could you get it? There was no level on it, but I wore that thing every level I could. So.
Yeah, that was EQ. So I would say somewhere in between, I guess, which is real vague, but I would like to be able to change things throughout the game. So I was talking about this with Chris, actually. I think the biggest difference in where I'm thinking that gear is going to be more of a part of this game than we think is because there is no spec system. There is no talent tree.
Yep.
There is no I want to be more defensive. Let me go change this.
There's no level on your gear too. There's no gear scores, and
that too.
That sounds like so. That's great. Yeah.
So it kind of alludes that gear is going to be more of your strategy. It's going to be what you're going to want.
You can take the whole theory of the 12 skill loadout and kind of doesn't that in a sense become its own sort of not the same thing, but like a talent tree. I'm going to take these 12 skills, this is going to be my build, and then your gear kind of plays to that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. You're right in that if you have this choice, but the difference I think lies. Well, I'm saying things with the memory of WoW back in Wrath, but if you wanted to change spec back in Wrath, you couldn't just.
You had to pay for it, go to town.
You had to pay, and then it eventually became more and more money. And I remember it just being enough money that it was annoying. I didn't want to spend that.
Yep, I agree. Especially with the guy who's always in dungeons and broke. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it was even a deterrent, even though we want more of a deterrent for death and things like that. Money was a deterrent back then. So
you'll have tracking on. So you'll always have tracking on.
Well, to hold my gear, I don't know where I'm getting money from. Still, I got to find a crafter who's going to go in with me. Hey, you can break down all my gear. Just give me stuff. Give me half the profits. So what would you do then? So the meter has fallen below 50%, more towards you don't want to carry a lot of gear. You don't want to be swapping all the time. You've done super hardcore. You've done the middle ground. You've done not. So I mean, where do you stand? Where do you want Pantheon to fall?
I would put the bar a little bit higher. I think this is pretty low because I think people aren't realizing that the gear in this game, it's not going to be this constant switching. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to, at least someone who's going to take pride in it, you're going to be like, oh, I have these 3 really awesome items that I can pull out for different situations. And I wouldn't mind that being the thing. And I don't know if there are trinkets or something alike in this game, clickies, as we were saying. Like,
There's got to be clickies. I'd be willing to put money on it.
I love things like that. I love having a weapon that, is a blunt weapon and maybe has a chance for me to hit twice, and then I'll take it out for this boss that it's going to work against.
Or if there's magic weapons like they had back in the day where you can't kill like undead things without a magic weapon and blah 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 blah.
Yeah. I think I'm okay with it. So where you just put the bar, I'm okay with that. I don't want it to be the end all be all. And if someone comes into a dungeon with one set, I don't want them to feel like they just can't do anything.
Yeah. That's fair. All right, awesome, man. Thank you for your contributions once again, man. Always a pleasure having you on.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Drop you down, man. Thanks.
Later.
Man, some good stuff brought up.
Yeah,
some really good stuff there. We haven't talked about. We'll give it a couple more people before I rant and rave about it. I'm teaser, spoiler. We're gonna bring in Mr. Cake Donut, and then we're gonna bring in Mr. Christopher Kane. So, Mr. Cake Donut, we're bringing you in now. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good. How are you guys?
Mr. Cake. So what are your thoughts here? What do your bags look like? What does your bank look like? Do you want to be swapping gear? Are you hardcore about min-maxing? I mean, there's a lot of topics that tie into this category. So what's your thought process? Your bags.
My bags are always full, and I hate it. I want like 10% for me. I hate switching gear.
So you just want to get like one piece of gear a week, and you're like, this is better than what I have, and you destroy the hell out of the other one, never to see it again.
Absolutely. Yep. I don't like resist gear. I don't usually carry around a whole bunch of trinkets, even though I'm supposed to, a bunch of different weapons. The rest of it, no. I hate
What class are you looking to play?
Right now, I think I'm going to be a summoner, so.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard anybody want to be a summoner.
Bronson, you are so.
You're gonna be the only summoner on the whole server.
You're gonna get me in so much trouble because my two classes that I rip on that people get mad at me about is summoner and druid.
So rip on them. I just don't know enough about them, so that's all.
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean I think there'll be powerhouses for soloing. I think they'll be the best soloing class. So Cake. So what you're saying is if someone wants to group with you in your guild, they got to know that if there's a healer in that group, you're not putting on fire resist gear. Just heal me.
Maybe. I've done it. Like, oh god, I've always been a tank in like all the MMOs I played, and I've always had the resist gear. Or like being a monk, like every single spec had like different stat priorities in like BFA right now. So it's just, I just hate it. It's so frustrating.
So you do it begrudgingly. You just want to hope not to have to do it.
Right. Like I do it, but it's like you said, begrudgingly. It's like they're forcing me, and I hate every single moment. Just give me one piece of gear, and have a good.
Here's your weapon. Do you want a blunt weapon or a slashing weapon?
Yeah, I think you're gonna. I don't know, man. It sounds like I'm not sure how they're gonna handle that, because it seems like with just the acclamation system alone, it's gonna be real difficult to move through the world without certain. I'm hoping it's not as bad as it sounds like in my imagination. But
we can have reagents
in the dungeon,
too.
I mean, in the dungeons when you're will frost damage be insane if you're not resistant to it? Is fire damage, is all these different type of damages going to be that bad, or is it only the
I hope they're severe. I hope that these world conditions are super severe.
The world, yeah, but I'm just curious if having those glyphs on, I mean, does it help against fire damage?
Well, I guess you're going to be able to have like a total of 5 on, so you can throw all cold on and be really resistant to cold, but maybe that area also has lightning and cold, so you're going to have to like decide how you want to balance yourself. Is what that's, guys, 100%, I want to be very clear, this is my theory on it, the way I'm looking at it. I could be wrong. But that's kind of the way I look at it, is like you'll be able to have a set amount on, and you can mix match if you want to have some resistance to everything, or you can go full out on something.
I wouldn't dislike it as much if it actually had like some kind of meaning like that, like resist gear. That's pretty cool. And like if there's stuff that like makes you move faster, and like I don't know if there's like a dungeon where you have to like get away and like constantly move and fight, that'd be kind of cool. But if it's just, hey, this number
is higher than this.
You need this much mastery because this has 2 mobs that you can cleave the entire fight. That kind
or
of stuff.
because they patched the game and changed something. Now I have to switch all my gear. Yeah.
Right. So if it has some kind of meaning, I'm a little bit, I guess, more accepting of it. But God, I hate it. My bags are always full, and I hate it.
Yeah. I hope they do have that kind of like that you can pre-plan. So like you going into a dungeon, you know that there's this these types of mobs there, so you know, like they said, the different types of materials, like whether it be skin or crystal, the bodies are made up of these things that you know that you're going to have a blunt weapon, or you're going to be using X type of spells, or this type of gear. Yeah.
All right, well, I moved the meter down. Thank you, Mr. Donut. We
Nice. Awesome.
Take it easy, man. We'll definitely be talking.
Yep.
Wow, it keeps hovering around that lower one, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised. You know, in I guess EQ didn't have a ton of swapping. I guess like you had certain items, like I said, like the fungi tuning and stuff like that. So, okay, so we're gonna bring in Chris. Probably gonna be our last one, and then I'm gonna go on a rant. So maybe I'll do it with Chris here because that's always
I think that's gonna probably happen.
Yeah. So here we go. We're bringing in Mr. Chris Kane into the live channel. Hello, sir. How are you?
What the hell? Why is that meter so high? It needs to be lower. You are wrong in every way, shape, and form.
So you don't like to carry gear around, Chris?
All right, we're gonna really. I've been
Let's
prepping
go.
for this for the last hour and 21 minutes.
So you should be ready. Convince me.
I am ready. I'm going to convince you. Okay. You have a gear set to do whatever the hell you want. That's great. That's fine. That's fantastic. Now that puts you now look at gear as the means to an end. That's what I'm assuming that's what you do. You do an event that you can't beat. Your gear is now the means to an end. I hate that.
I give you 70%.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to talk about 2 things. One, it's what's called a false dichotomy. And this is the
Don't start using your big words.
No, it is. It's
I know.
false dichotomy. This is what's called the fallacy of limited choice. You're given a choice on how to solve a problem, and the game world sort of fills in the blanks. It fills in this idea. Okay, what do you need to solve this problem? A boss, whatever. This is a psychology bullshit. And they give you items you need better items to kill this boss. I would rather prefer either a spec or you guys talked about it before, a spec or something else, abilities that give you the change in the stats that you're looking for rather than the gear, because the gear is what makes you spend time playing the game. I don't like that. In fact, they've all said it. Pantheon is about the social aspects, about the community. Why I want to play the game is because some idiot makes me laugh or makes me cry because he ninja looted all my cool gear. I want to play because of that.
Am I the idiot that makes you laugh?
Yes. Yeah, you are. That's why it needs to change. Because it's good, but it's so bad to have to rely on 80 different gear sets. Come on.
Did he convince you to bring down the?
Come on, bring it down.
No.
You suck.
I brought it down a little bit. I brought it down earlier. You see, I get what you're saying. And I think I don't want to sit here and pretend I'm some kind of special being. I think I'm a little different from min-maxers, like the min-maxers that are known. I think there's tons of people like me. I'm not unique. But the people that when you hear the term min-maxer, you don't think of someone like me. You think of the elitist asshole with the meters and blah, 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 and giving people a hard time, and it's all numbers. I do that for myself, but I don't outwardly push that. It's this, again, just self-pride to be the one who, if we're struggling, kind of like you just said, like we're fighting a boss, right? I want to be that extra 3% that's doing a little bit more than he should to help us through that difficult situation. And I do look at gear. You're 100% right. And that's why what's funny is like, I'm not a big crafter. I'm not about making money. I'm not about the economy. My whole thing, if you see me in Pantheon, I'm going to say this now, this will be 100%. I'm going to be the annoying guy in your guild or on your friends list or whatever it is that's going to be like, hey, you want to do a dungeon? Hey, I'm going to go to this dungeon. You want to come? We need a tank. We need a healer. You want to come to this dungeon? Like, that's every MMO I play. I am literally you will be shocked if I'm not in a dungeon or unfortunately managing my bank. Those are the two things that I
You're that little kid in the back seat. Are we there
Are we
yet?
there yet? Yeah. Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
I guarantee you, if we ever group together, I am going to train the ever-living hell out of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull
Thank
so
God
many
I'm playing a
mobs
rogue.
that you are just going to just be endlessly dying and on a corpse run forever.
That's what I said the other day to a bunch of people in the
I saw it.
chat. It is like, oh, I'm going to train somebody who's going into a dungeon and just trying to power a dungeon. I'm just going to be on my rogue. I'm just going to.
Or they try to push PlusYou, they get by you, they go take your boss camp you're going at. I'm like, okay, guys, let's train them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, that's why I'm playing a rogue. That's one of the secrets is with the danger of the world, I need to be able to get away. So monk or rogue, and I can't play a monk because Haya's just so good at playing monks that I'd feel inferior to him all the time, and I can't have that. So Chris, you want to move that meter down even from where it's at. You want one set of Chris Kane gear.
I want gear to feel earned. It's like
Okay.
another fallacy. It is another fallacy.
No,
it's the
that-
sunk cost fallacy.
I get that.
That's why I want it to feel earned.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. Yes,
I think it will. I think
Adam
it will.
in the chat just said, will you be able to train mobs in Pantheon? Yes. 100%. We've seen it. It's pretty crazy.
Yes, you're going to train mobs.
Training's back, yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't piss off the people around you, that's for sure. So, Chris, I'm going to go on a rant here for our last 4 minutes. I'm going to keep you in here because you're good at ranting as well. So we haven't talked about one really particularly important point of this in carrying gear. Transmog. Or what you look like. There are a lot of people that don't care. I am not someone who doesn't care. I care ridiculously about what my character looks like. Now, in games that don't have transmogging, I would walk around in a set of gear I would save that would be my walking around town looking sweet gear. Then when we went and fought, I'd put on my fighting gear. A lot of people have said that they don't want transmogging in Pantheon. If there's no transmogging in Pantheon, I'm going to have even more gear in my bags because I do want to look cool. I want to have a character look. When people see Minus, this was well before I did any YouTube crap or made a website or followed Pantheon. I was always trying to look cool walking around town. Where some people will do achievements and achieve things, and then people are like, hey, like, I heard this about you. That's really cool. I want someone to stop me and be like, whoa, where'd you get that sword? That's really cool. So if the game's not going to have a transmog system, that's even more crap I have to carry around. So are you guys at 4 or against transmogging?
4.
Oh, you are? So, okay.
Totally. Come on.
So
Really?
would you say
against it.
destroy
I'm
it?
against
Like if you take an item and you're going to put it into your transmog ability, you would have to take that item and destroy it. That's
Yes.
how, yeah. Okay.
I just don't want it to be like the way WoW handled it. I don't mind having the ability. I'm much more a fan of how Warhammer Online handled it. They had a second page, and it was just basically if you found the items that you wanted to look like, wanted the stuff you're wearing
equip
to look
them?
like, you would just go to that second page, equip it in that spot, and it would automatically swap it out.
I'm okay with
We
that
talked-
too.
We talked about this. Dude, it has to be a trade skill or a skill tree that you level up. And if you dictate that your worth or enjoyment in a game is based on how you look, then there needs to be a skill that allows you to...
Dude, if there's a
say,
crafting, if you can be a crafter, yeah. If that's there you
all
go.
day long.
I'll be
Make it a skill, and then you realize those people care about more what they look like than something else. Now, there's no wrong answer, but transmogging evolved because people want their character to look the way they want. Like that's why it's such a huge thing in most games these days.
that would be the first time that I would max out crafting all the time. If that was, I'd be into that. You'd bring me into the crafting mode. I'd be out there gathering plants so that I could wear a sweet red hat.
It's just that people think it's the illusion that they're looking unique, and everybody wants to be unique. I mean, we're all unique anyways. Yes, there's going to be a lot of similarities between personality traits, but when you're in a game, you want to be that one unique person that has this weird setup of outfit that nobody else has. That's why the guy wears the pink tutu and the clown hat and walks around. He
boar
thinks
head
that
on.
nobody. Yeah,
That's awesome, though. That's part of
Yeah,
the reason
sure.
why City of Heroes and Champion Online still have some weird,
right. Oh, yeah.
masochistic, dedicated following these.
I
was
wish
a
I could
bumblebee
find
in
my
that game.
picture. I wish I could. Totally wish I could find my picture of my City Heroes character. It's fantastic. Mickey D. He was dressed
Yeah.
in red and yellow with a big golden M arch on his chest, spiky blonde hair, big smile. And when I went into the dungeons, I had key phrases I would say. And I'm sure people were like, what is wrong with this guy? But we'd get into a big fight and then I'd be like, that guy needed a Happy Meal. or like we would I'd join a group and I'd be like, hey guys, I'm definitely here to help. But if you see the Hamburglar, he's mine.
It's totally emergent gameplay right there.
Yeah, that game did have the best character customization, creation tool, bar none. So
It does, put it this way, it needs to be at any game that launches. I'll just go right out and say it. Any game that launches needs to have some form of allowing the user to dictate what they look like throughout their
And
progression.
if they don't do it in game, it'll be a cash shop. So
And
what do you want?
if they do that, then they alienate the base that they're trying to attract. I mean,
Yep, it's got to be a trade skill. That's a great idea. I'm gonna harass Brad.
that would be okay. I'd be okay
Please
with
do
that. I just because I don't really want it, but
If it's
Yeah,
earned,
just want-
if it's earned, it feels a little bit different, right?
yeah.
If someone looks badass, it means they didn't take blacksmithing, they didn't take alchemy, whatever, because that was what was important to them. So if they're gonna look that way, hey, more props to you. So.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, I moved the meter down a little bit. We're freaking really low.
okay, good.
We're really low. So I'm going to drop you out and close up the show. Chris, thank you as always. I love when you're in the green room. People come
right,
up here
you
so
bastard.
fired up. When Chris is in the
right.
green room, we have the best green room group of people show up. We have tons of people and they always come up here angry. And I love
That's
it.
because all I'm doing is just yelling at them. I'm berating them.
And is that role with me not being allowed in the green room? And did you create that? Let's be honest.
It's true.
All right, Chris, thanks,
It's
man.
true. He brings them
Not
around.
bad.
Take it easy. Oh man, Bronson, that was a good one, man. We got into a lot of different stuff. I can't believe we didn't get into Transmog till the end. I was waiting because I'm a Transmog fan. I could go into my old WoW Discord and probably send you about 50 pictures after this is over of different Transmogs I had.
Yeah, I mean, I say I don't want it, but then I think back and I was definitely constantly changing my outfit in WoW. So yeah, I probably wouldn't.
All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap up in 1 minute. I'm gonna give you guys one last second here to go ahead and say up or down for the meter, or just keep it where it is. If you want to keep it where it is, just don't say anything. Up or down. You guys have about a minute here. We'll slightly move the meter with the chat's input. Mr. Cake Donuts already moved it down. He does not get another down, Bronson. I'm not giving him another one. Thorn Deep moved it down. Aber has not been here. We have a slight bit of up right now. He didn't come in. He wants to go up a tiny bit. Chris Kane says up. What? That doesn't even make sense. He moved it down.
He's being the contrarian.
So we have a few people saying up a tiny bit. Let's see. Chris is drunk. Well, that's how we like it, Chris. You're better drunk. Up a bit more than 25% from Adam. So I moved it up to about 30, up a little bit more. I like some swapping from Erikai. It looks like we're still going to... I'd say I don't think I'd be comfortable moving it above 50 because a lot of people we talked to had some good points. They moved the meter down. I'd say like, let's say about 45. With what people are saying, move it up a little bit. Let's go about 45%. Where people want to have options, but doesn't want to be forced upon them. I think that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah.
So Bronson, did you have fun being the first community co-host?
I did.
Did you have a good
I
time?
did. I just wish I could, had more input on it. I feel like I didn't have much to say on it, but it was nice. Everybody else had a lot to bring in to the table here and say what they had to say. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Thank you for
it's a lot
having
of
me.
fun. Yeah, thanks for coming, man, and thank you everybody. We're at like 29 more subs to get to 1,000. That's crazy. So if you haven't followed us on Twitter, hit that follow button. I'm kind of whoring myself out for a second here. I don't do that a lot, but we're really close and it'd be super awesome. If you guys haven't followed us yet, tell me what it would take to get you to follow us. And we'll be doing this show every Thursday. I'm going to give everyone a heads up ahead of time. And if this gets canceled, I apologize, but we're pretty much confirmed. Next week is going to be a fiery one. We are going to be talking about how happy you are with the current development cycle. I know that this is going to be a fire. and I have enlisted the help of someone who knows the development cycle of the game better than anybody. So next week, Basgrim will be co-hosting with me, and we'll be talking about the development cycle. So should be a pretty fiery one. We're going to ask you if you're happy with where the game's development is at, if you're not happy, and where in between and why. And we'll have someone who really knows all the fine details in Basgrim of that. So pretty please make sure you guys stop by for that one. That one should be fire. So thanks, everybody. It was an awesome show tonight. We went 4 minutes over our overtime. I really appreciate everyone who was able to make it in, and we'll see you next week. Later.